Hello, folks. I hope everyone is enjoying their dinner. Hey, how about another round of applause for the Munsick boys? Thank you. And how about that meal? How about Little America? Thank you for the great hospitality that you've shown tonight. So Governor Gordon regrets that he can't be here this evening, but he has sent us a message.
Good evening and welcome to the 2024 Governor's Arts Awards. It's always the greatest evening during the session. I am really disappointed that I'm not able to join you this evening, but I got to tell you, you're going to have a lot more fun with Wyoming's First Lady anyway. So I'll miss you, but this is such a great evening. Every year I look forward to selecting award recipients because it's a moment to pause and reflect on the vibrancy of Wyoming. Selecting the recipients is also a difficult task because there just are so many wonderful nominees. Wyoming is home to more than 11,000 arts and cultural workers, making up 4% of our workforce. Every day they are creating a front country experience that parallels Wyoming's backcountry wonders. Wyoming's artists and patrons of the arts are vital to our state. And because of you, I am proud to say the state of arts in Wyoming is strong, and it's only getting stronger. Wyoming Arts Council grant dollars reach every corner of our state, and for every $1 of state funding, local communities contributed an additional 17. This shows how much we all value the arts in Wyoming and how essential they are to our character. I want to congratulate all the awardees tonight and hope that you will have an evening filled with joy, inspiration, and maybe a little dancing. I'm really sorry I can't be there, but I hope you enjoy the night. Take it away, Jenny.
Folks, I'm very proud to work for a governor and a first lady who not only support the arts, but they're kind and they're thoughtful, and they are always looking to make Wyoming a better place. Please join me in welcoming First Lady Jenny Gordon.
Thank you. Wow, thank you so much. It is such an honor to be here. I mean, you got the B team, and that's okay. But really, really, I'm so excited for tonight and these amazing awardees that we're going to really honor here tonight, along with the arts. But before we do that, we will have some really wonderful poetry. And I want you to hear our poet laureate. Please welcome Barbara Smith to the stage. Barbara.
Hello. I want to thank everybody, all the people I've met and all the people I've known for years who've welcomed me as a new poet laureate. I have been told that I'm the first one from southwestern Wyoming. Beautiful. And I kind of like to introduce myself and my town a little bit with a couple of poems. The community of Rock Springs, I came as a teacher, and I was going to stay a couple of years and then go back to civilization in Montana. And all of a sudden, this became my place. And this happens to a lot of people who have come It's a little secret maybe, but it happens to a lot of people who come to Sweetwater County and Rock Springs and find, to their surprise sometimes, that this is their place. And Rock Springs has a different history from a lot of the other places in the state of Wyoming. It's a boom and bust kind of a place, and it's the history is one of immigrants and industry and railroad and so on. So I came to Rock Springs, and I also teach memoir writing, and I get a lot of stories from people who were born or grew up in Rock Springs, and a lot of stories from people who come from foreign places like Oklahoma and Texas and so on. And so that inspired me, and a lot of poems I have written make a connection between people who have made enormous changes in their lives and moved and gone to places and made a life for themselves. And so I'm going to read a couple. This is called Another Saturday Night. Back then, during the first boom, it was a company town, full of company houses, all alike, row after row, coming down from the mine, number 1 or number 3. Everyone appreciated the company. It was better than tents. The men would come home tramping down their rows to their houses every night, to eat, to sit in the chair and read the paper until dark, except on payday, when they would stop for a drink and come roaring home, full of whiskey, ready to do their duty another Saturday night, and couldn't find their houses. They all looked alike. On one row, the women got together. Each painted her front door a different color so her man could get home Saturday nights with some of the pay. They named it Rainbow Avenue, a lovely thought in a dusty world. The town grew, and things changed, but not much. City fathers changed the name of Rainbow Avenue to 9th Street to conform to the times, the plans. Now, there's a new boom with major renovations and additions. Strip mines have replaced the deep black holes like number 3. They call themselves after pioneers, places with a mystique. Jim Bridger, Black Butte, lovely names. 9th Street extends up the hill into a trailer court. Row after row of 70-footers and double wides bought by the company flash in waves of aluminum in the sun. Hundreds of ripples in the right light stream. They are better than tents. The men turn their 4-wheel drives into their rows every night, come home to eat, to watch TV until dark, except, of course, payday. The women on 9th Street may have to have a meeting, take back their names, give the numbers to the mines, and paint the town doors for another Saturday night. I get a lot of ideas from people and from newspapers and from everything. You have to be careful because you might end up in one of my poems. But this one comes from a newspaper story. A woman opens her front door one morning to get her newspaper. That was when newspapers were delivered. And her front stoop had sunk like 10 feet. And we ended up with this problem of subsidence where people were worried that their houses were undermined by little coal mines that nobody knew anything about. And so the officials came and filled in all the holes and so on, and we're now in deep terror about what will happen. But anyway, this one is called Rock Springs from the Inside. Immigrants from the hot mines in Germany, Greece, the Baltics, came here to this sun-filled, desert-wide place years ago to work the mines, bringing their trades, forming the narrow, winding streets, just like back home, where there wasn't much room. Even though the high plains have nothing but space, Old Town is cramped, wall to wall, narrow, vertical, steep. When they could swing it, the miners walked out and dug their own coal. Freelancers jerry-rigged in the sides of hills, around the fringes, secret mines, one man's dream apart from the company paying in script. So now, in the new subdivision, up on the hills for the view, something shudders, shifts, as somewhere deep in that secret spot, the hill remembers. This one harkens back to the idea of people who come not expecting to find their place in the world, or have the attitude and the idea that they're going to make the best of things. And this is called transplant. Trailer once battened down, skirted against the blow sand construction. She laid sod. Sent for a tree from home where water fell unplanned. Dogwood transplant against sagebrush. Dug a garden from cracked clay. They watched behind thin curtains. She tilled the rows ready. What grows here? Tomatoes, zucchini, strawberries if you water good. Season doesn't hold for melons much. She staked them high, thinking of crowders, little ladies, field peas, muscadine, fig preserves, mimosa shade. Around the plot, she laid ground cover, gold red surprise across the baked edge, sucking leftovers from the hose. It grew, not near so tall, but green, fierce fruit clung in the gusts, ripening against all odds. Taste this, she gave to her neighbor. Brushing dust, she bit red juice. It's hard to get, but worth more. Next year, I'll help you, if you like. I'm planting potentilla perennials all along the west. If that dogwood dies, I'll get a cottonwood. It's native to this place and thrives. That might be good. Anyway, thank you for being so welcoming, and see you on the road here. Bye-bye.
Barbara, thank you. That was amazing. I had the pleasure of spending some time with Barbara last night, and I see Director Westby from YDOT here in the room. She said she'd written a poem about I-80, and I think I could write some poems about I-80, but they would probably not be appropriate to say to this crowd. So thank you. So we're now excited to honor the 2023 Governor's Arts Award recipients. If everyone will please direct their attention to the screens for a short video honoring this year's recipients.
It adds to the joy and the richness of one's life. The arts promote the land and the state that we all love.
When I first started with the Wyoming Symphony Orchestra, Mike and Jane were some of the first people that I met. They would give of their time, and they're so involved with artists. They're everywhere around the state.
It's showing up and being supportive. If you engage, it's very, very meaningful to people.
Mike was asked by President Clinton to serve as the ambassador to Ireland, and part of that program was the State Department's Arts in the Embassy.
And they give you the option to bring art to the embassy to hang. What we wanted to do was show what Wyoming looked like.
And they worked with museums in Jackson, Cody, Casper, Laramie, and they were able to collect artwork from around the state in order to bring Wyoming to the Irish people.
They were thrilled and really blown away to see the landscapes and the wildlife. A painting that Linda Lilligraven from Laramie did, which was our own, really turned out to be one of the more popular pieces that we brought over. And it became a real joy for us to share it with them.
It starts conversations that is all down to earth, and people can ask questions and you can have a good time.
First Lady Jane was asked to start a program called Wildflowers for Wyoming.
I got a call one day. Hello, I'd like to talk to Mrs. Sullivan. And I said, this is Mrs. Sullivan. And she said, this is Lady Bird Johnson. And my response was, you've got to be kidding me. And she laughed. Anyway, she said, I'd like to talk to you about this project that I have.
It's a beautification project that added wildflowers to our highways.
It's like anyone's garden, only, it's along the highways.
We spend a lot of time driving in Wyoming. This was one of the projects that added a lot of visual interest to our roads. That impact has made its way onto the canvases and in photographs.
They add to the culture and to the joy of living.
We're still seeing the work that they did. This is 80 years of impact. That's such an important lesson for people to remember, is that you have to get involved in the things that you love and the things that you want to see thrive. We're in the process of raising money to build a performing arts hall in Casper, Wyoming, and the Jane and Mike Sullivan Atrium and Jane's Gallery will be the first place that you enter when you attend a performance, and we wanted to honor their legacy in the community that they live in and that they love.
Wyoming Governor and First Lady Mike and Jane Sullivan, recipients of a 2023 Wyoming Governor's Arts Award.
People at all different stages in their life can benefit from the arts and have their lives changed and enriched and become more human.
We first knew her as our department head at the University of Wyoming in the Department of Art.
I started a ceramics program. That was part of the reason why I was hired for the position of department head.
She's always been an advocate of people's growth and exploration, not only as artists, but as fellow human beings.
I miss those Wyoming kids. They were amazing with how hard they worked. And they're just so honest and open. And also the whole personal interest in learning and doing whatever they needed to make that happen, and really participating in that. And that truly touched me.
Mary Jane helped make the connection between how the university works and how Gentile should work.
In 2021, Nelchie had the dream of establishing a residency program, and so I stepped up and said I'd help her, and off we went.
Being the director at Gentel, she brought the world to the state, and the state to the world.
All over the country, people had a notion about what Wyoming was like. All the cowboy stories that you know, and all the westerns that you see, because we have great pride in breaking down the stereotypes.
Gentel is something that has artists coming in and infusing the community with things, but they're also taking things from the community.
We've got notches on our belt because we have vegans and vegetarians who've gone home and have eaten, you know, beef that has been really, really good and they've enjoyed it, as well as the wild game that we have. I think that artists in Wyoming are looking for ways in which to talk about the West that they live in. What new can I say about the landscape?
She's a catalyst. I think through that humor, through that joy, through that empathy, she connects people, she gets them together.
Art stimulates the imagination, makes us think differently, makes us ask questions, makes us wonder, makes us stand in awe, makes us excited, makes us remember. Everyone should be able to enjoy the arts no matter what their life vocation or avocation or age is.
Mary Jane Edwards, recipient of a 2023 Wyoming Governor's Arts Award. Mary Jane Edwards, recipient of a 2023 Wyoming Governor's Arts Award.
It was our first gig, and I pulled those boys together and we set up in front of the Best Western, there right on Main Street. It was during rodeo week. Well, you couldn't really hear us what we were playing because the traffic was going by. All the motorcycles were revving their engines and stuff. But people loved the fact that there was a dad out there with his 3 sons giving it hell. And we were just pulling out of there, and I was counting the money up, and I gave him those greenback dollars from the gig, everybody, and he was so tickled to death, his eyes got real big like this, and he said, "That's a lot of money. I say, we just do this."
Well, it's a long way from over. Dad always had an instrument in his hands, so we started playing music at an extremely young age.
Music is just a huge part of who I am because I got to learn how to play from the same people that taught me how to be a good human being.
I'm probably always their most honest critic, and I'm probably a little too blunt at times.
In fact, she was the one who first insisted that I get the boys out playing in the public. And God, I hated to do that. We really kind of sucked.
Lyrically, our music is all about having respect for your neighbor and having respect for the land.
I think it just comes natural for us to write about the great wide open spaces and the landscapes like we have.
The music's also steeped in Western culture, in the nature of the West. The mountains, the rivers, sagebrush, the horses, the people.
There's an individual here in the Sheridan community who had a terrible workplace accident, and not much time goes by, and then you see that the Munsics are putting together a band to play at a fundraiser for this individual. The Munsics are just great role models of this taking care of your neighbors kind of values. And then that has a ripple effect. People are coming out and supporting these causes.
You know, a lot of that stems from the traditions and the values that we hold, you know, sacred in our state as Wyoming people.
What is it about it? I think it's mainly that it's honest. It comes from calloused hands, open hearts, working backs. It's not written for the money. It's just written because you can't help it. It just comes out.
The rest of the states and the rest of the world could learn a lot from Wyoming.
The Munsick Boys, recipients of a 2023 Wyoming Governor's Arts Award.
Well, my parents gave me my first set of drumsticks at 15, and I started beating up all the furniture in the house.
Millward brings administrative skills, art advocacy, and an artist all in one bundle. In the community where there were art events, Millward would be backstage, he would be front, he would be introducing. He was as interesting as the show itself.
Art expresses the inexpressible, and it reaches the emotions, and it inspires you and transports you and takes you to a place that really nothing else can. Living in Wyoming is a great place and a great wellspring for artistic inspiration.
He just kind of oozes the arts. You can't be around him without knowing that this fellow has an artistic inclination. I assume he's relatively calm when he sleeps, but he's certainly not when he's awake.
I spent several years trying to make it as a performing artist, recording accompaniment tracks for various clients. Did some music theater directing. I worked at some dinner theaters down in Colorado. Those experiences informed my understanding of what it means to try to be an artist and to try to make it. I started to understand what role I could play to really help when I was the head of the Arts Council, bring resources and make the case to all of the folks who would ultimately make the decision for providing more funding and creating new programs. And
he was right there in the committee meetings and talking to the legislators about his passion and the passion that art communities really had around the state.
Frankly, sometimes he was unbearably enthusiastic. Budget meetings with him were just, you'd think I had a Southern Baptist preacher in there explaining to me how important it was.
I've spent a lot of time trying to make the case for all of the ways that the arts teach you things that are above and beyond just the artistic experience itself, because I just believe so strongly in the value of the arts in the lives of individual people and in the lives of communities and the life of a state and of a nation and in our world.
Millward Simpson, recipient of a 2023 Wyoming Governor's Arts Award.
So let's talk a little bit. Okay. Most people who paint, who do music, who do whatever, they remember how much it meant to them. That's certainly true for me when it comes to writing and filmmaking.
Jeff has interviewed presidents, vice presidents, senators.
Working with Jeff was always so much fun, and he had a great spirit and a great sense of humor and just boundless curiosity for stories and people.
Well, you do it for the pleasure of creating, of course. The really good creative people, they're going to find the great stories.
He and Ruby Calvert, along with David Warrington, they started Main Street Wyoming.
Welcome to Main Street Wyoming. I'm Jeff O'Gara.
Jeff was the host and producer of that program.
And eventually I kind of made the case that I should make some documentaries, and that allowed me to do full-scale storytelling.
I think a lot of the work that Jeff's done is very important as far as securing the history of Wyoming. The Drift was really a love affair for Jeff. He wanted to tell that story.
Taking the cattle up to the high country every year and bringing them back down. Guys who had to live in those lonely shacks up there on the mountain. Just great stories.
Jeff also really sought out to capture these personal, intimate, real moments with his characters.
Jeff has done biographical documentaries on a lot of politicians. He was doing the interview with Dick Cheney, and Jeff asked, well, people say, and Mr. Cheney had to correct him and say, Jeff, who are these people that say that? So that kind of put Jeff on the spot. So I put together a little piece on Jeff hang gliding, and he came into the edit suite and we took a look at it, and not a pretty sight.
I probably, in some ways, don't even qualify to tell the Wyoming stories. I certainly never felt qualified to tell the Wind River stories, the stories of the tribes.
The story close to Jeff's heart is really Home from School, The Children of Carlisle, which follows Arapaho families in search of the remains of those children that passed away while at those boarding schools.
There's a lot of really beautiful, poignant moments in that film that really grab you with their humanity.
We wanted, of course, to shoot the return of the children's remains from the Carlisle Indian School to the Wind River Reservation. Traditionally, when there is a funeral like this, you bring a riderless horse to the cemetery and then you circle it. So we've got the cameras behind him now, and the horse is going towards the sunset with the riderless horse behind him.
Jeff's shows, Will Live Forever, those videos and programs are really leaving a legacy for the people of Wyoming.
Storytelling is pretty much what I've wanted to do, whether it's in print or on film, my entire life.
Jeff O'Gara, recipient of a 2023 Wyoming Governor's Arts Award.
I'm pleased, is this on? Hello? Yes. I'm pleased to have Director Glenn and Arts Council Board Chair Carrie DeWitt with me to invite Mike and Jane Sullivan, arts advocates and former Wyoming Governor and First Lady from Casper, to the stage.
Picture first. Right here. Of course, the picture. As near as I can tell, this is as close as we'll get to the Academy Awards. And I drew the short straw. So let me first thank Governor Gordon, First Lady Jenny, and don't tell me she didn't have anything to do with these selections, because I know where the power lies at the governor's bench. To the Wyoming Arts Council, to Lindsey Grant, who surreptitiously planned on getting the nomination without our understanding. And we still don't have an understanding of how we got here. And all of those who have supported, and many of you are here, our adventures over the many years
in Wyoming, and the other nominees who so ably represent the diversity and talent of art and culture throughout Wyoming, as you've seen. Barbara Smith, I want to tell you that subsidence had a particular interest to me. You know, when you're elected governor, it's a bit like being invited to a huge banquet. But some of the food isn't prepared quite right. Some of it is wonderful. But our involvement with the arts and culture and the people of Wyoming is the dessert. And I'm happy to say that it would be my impression, and Jane shares this impression with me, that these days it's a flaming dessert. And we're proud to have been a part of it. Let me say we've got singers and storytellers and drummers, talented people, and we're pleased to be a part of them. And I was trying, Jane has said for now 2 months or whatever it's been, what did we do? We don't paint, we don't sing. She sang, I don't sing. And I said, I tried to convince her what we had done. But last night, as I was going to bed, I was thinking about that. And I thought about one thing that Jane did shortly before and shortly after we left the governor's office. When Amoco Refinery closed its refinery in Casper, Jane approached me one day and she said, that's going to be a sterile site in Casper if somebody doesn't do something. And she said, I think we ought to do something. And I said, hey, I got a lot of things to do here. Be my guest. So she called the CEO of Amoco. And that ultimately led to a small group in Casper being formed. And her vision was that it was going to be a sterile site filled with litigation for Casper for 50 years. It was an empty canvas. But she had an idea. She formed a small committee. She formed a community review. And it's now 3 Crowns Golf Course and development along the Platte River. And it's no longer an empty canvas. That vision, as with artists here and throughout Wyoming, put something on an empty canvas that thrills us all. And the diversity of the culture and the arts is worth celebrating. And thank you all for being here and celebrating with us.
This is kind of fun. I think I'm going to tell Mark I want to do it next time, too. Now we'd like to invite Mary Jane Edwards, art educator and recently retired executive director of the Gentile Foundation from Banner, to the stage to give her acceptance address. Come on up, Mary Jane.
So I'd just like to hit the replay button on the video and be done. Why not? Thank you, First Lady Jenny, for hosting this celebration. My thanks to the board members and the staff of the Wyoming Arts Council for all you do for all of us throughout the state. And greetings to the supporter of the arts, all of you seated in this room. It is amazing to look at. I'm sitting way over here, and I just keep looking over there and thinking of all of us sitting here. Tonight I want to share some random thoughts on being an art educator. An art educator, or one who is a maker and a traveler. Take a moment to look at the picture when you get home. Every art educator needs a prop. And when you get your artscape, and look at this picture right here. That is the picture of me when I get up every morning, or at least what I'd like to look at on the inside. This is the face of possibility, the face of someone who takes delight in making and fixing and figuring out, most often behind the scenes. As an artist, I am a maker. The inspiration, challenge, frustration, and delight that comes with playfully assembling materials fills me with joy, provides the pleasure of the aha moment, and sometimes terrifies me as it reveals the deepest subconscious moments. As an only child, I always sought out and adopted siblings and clusters of peers. As an adult, I found colleagues in 2 academic institutions. Joining 2 boards of peers who were action-based, I was challenged and offered role models and mentors. Involvement with a larger, diverse community influenced all aspects of my education and my teaching. This face holds insatiable curiosity, a childlike wonder and awe, and a vivid imagination. I loved going to school. And when I was in first grade and finished, I thought back on it, that wonderful experience, and I said, heck, I could teach first grade. And it went like that for several grades. And after my undergraduate program shipped the junior art majors off to Italy for a summer tour, I felt like I'd learned more in those 3 weeks of observation and experience than I had in the previous 3 years within 4 walls. Later, realizing the value of both and how each enhances the other, I envisioned education in the arts as a rewarding life of travel. When you travel in the arts, perhaps think of words like adventure, excursion, exploration, discovery, quest. These infer going from one place to another. When you embrace that process, you may be a maker of the arts, visit a museum or art center, go to a bluegrass festival, sing in a choir, or sign up for a workshop. Perhaps you write a check for NPR, give your all as a junior high art teacher, or serve as an academic leader or legislator. You might take a road trip or travel halfway across the globe, or you might be just content to sit home in the comfort of your home and take advantage of the resources there. When you open your life to the arts, you are in a position to discover something more about yourself, your humanity, and the world in which you inhabit. So remember, any experience in the art has the potential to change you, make you think, ask questions, tap into your deepest emotions, make you laugh, or bring you to tears. You, in turn, may be inspired to take action and motivated to more fully support the arts. Yes, please, all of you sitting in this room this evening, continue to be inspired, continue to take action, whether it's speaking out and up for the arts, whether it's serving in an arts-related position, making provocative art, or voting. For the past 2 decades, my travels in the art have brought me unimagined places in my thoughts and feelings. The artists, writers, and composers that come to Gentile are remarkable. They hunger for the time and space to create. They yearn for the gift that Nelchi envisioned for them, as a way to honor America's culture makers and contributors. Month after month, I often witnessed professional and personal changes in the lives of the residents. 6 to 12 months later, they often wrote thank you letters to Nelchi. Many spoke of how they valued the support and quiet to make courageous changes in their work and their lives. At Gentel, a haven for travelers, the residents experienced the best of Nelchi's generosity and hospitality. I will forever be thankful that Nelchi asked me to travel with her. If you would please hold your applause for a minute. In closing, I'd want to give a shout out to a few special makers and travelers in the room. To Ricky Cloggis, an extraordinary painter and passionate teacher, whose leadership continues building a remarkable undergraduate program. As art department head, she consistently raised her voice and frequently put on a hard hat to ensure that UW would have a platinum facility to house the visual arts. To my esteemed colleague and beloved partner of 22 years in managing the day-to-day operations of the residency, Lynn Reeves, the other half of the success story of Gentel, the one with the expertise and experience to keep the facilities in tip-top shapes and to herd the cats, I mean the residents. I am already shouting out for Beth Venn, who in only 9 months as executive director of the Nelchi Center is trailblazing and making her contribution to the arts visible across the state. And lastly, the prestigious, outlandish, renowned, wild woman of Wyoming who has personally made differences in our lives and has touched our hearts and minds and will do so for many more years to come in the future. Nelchi, you are missed. Thank you.
I'd now like to invite Dave, Trudy, Triss, and Sam Munsick of the Munsick Boys, musicians from Dayton, to the stage to give their acceptance address. Come on up.
I don't have much to say for a change, except for starters, about 2 hours ago we were invited to the reception over at the governor's residence. I didn't really understand what our role was, except to have a little fun, and that's what we were doing. And all of a sudden we heard our names called, and Jenny was welcoming the artists, the recipients, I guess, for pictures. And I got as far as Mike Sullivan and shook his hand and turned around and went back into the other room because I didn't understand what was going on, and it was a big one of my usual mistakes. So when Trudy heard about it, she was disgusted, as she always is, at that behavior. And all I did was turn to my daughter-in-law and said, there is another recent example of why I tell you that you married into the wrong Wright family. So this award is gosh, what do you say? It's a really humbling experience to get this award. First, I'd like to thank Governor Gordon and First Lady Jenny. There she is. For all that support. Also to the artists and the people of Wyoming, the patrons of the arts, all the people that give funds, that give work, that give sweat, equity to the arts in our state. It's an uphill battle, and look what you're doing. Look what you've done. We produce art in our state that's recognized all over the world. You should be very proud of yourselves. And we're just a little piece in that puzzle. I'd like to thank the members of my family, Tris, Sam, and Ian, for rolling with the old man all these years and being part of a democratic established band that we made. And then finally to my wife Trudy, who's had my back every step of the way for over 35 years now. Thank you very much.
Well, it is my honor to invite Millward Simpson, former director of the Wyoming Department of State Parks and Cultural Resources from Cheyenne, Wyoming, to the stage to give his acceptance address. Come on up, Millward.
Well, first and foremost, First Lady Jenny and Governor Gordon, thank you so much for this wonderful honor. And to my fellow recipients, I've known you in your work for many years, and I'm just so privileged to be part of this evening with you. I'm extremely gratified that I'm being given this award because of my work as an administrator. Because of course, the public experience of the arts seldom just spontaneously happens. Usually there's a process and administration is involved. And an arts administrator named Taylor described arts administration as aggregating and animating people, money, and stuff toward expressive ends. And the arts administrator facilitates the exchange between the artist and their art and the public. Facilitation means to make something more likely to happen. And of course, all the arts administrators in the room can identify with the fact that we're also somewhat like target jumpers, because we're up there at 10,000 feet. We have to see the entire landscape, and we have to figure out the right, precise target to hit. And we have to figure out how to get there, to land it. And inevitably, to do that, you have to be willing to open up the door and jump. Okay, so we've done all our focus groups and we've talked to all the artists around the state, and they want to feel more connected to each other in the arts community, and they want more capacity. Okay, so our target's going to be, we're going to try to propose seed money to get the Cultural Trust Fund on the ground, and we're going to try to do the state's first ever art summit. Okay, so how do we land there? Oh, pretty straightforward. You just go through the convoluted, difficult state budget process with all its various levels of approval. And of course, now that you're done, you can't relax. You have to actually do this stuff. So now we're going to have to engage with the Administrative Procedures Act because we've got to propose rules and regulations for the Cultural Trust and an initial board. We're going to have to go through the 45-day public comment period. We've got to use a procurement process, and we've got to get RFPs going for the Art Summit. And hey, let's have the UW aerial dancers drop from the rafters of the Taco John Center. Okay, I need to call the insurance commissioner. And then, though you do land in Basin, Wyoming, that received a Cultural Trust Fund grant to turn its dilapidated downtown theater into a town art center. And you land at the Art Summit, and you see all of the synergy and the wonderful networking that's happening, and then you all look up in wonder at once and joy as the UW aerial dancers descend from the rafters like magic. I'd like to thank the people that facilitated my career, to Chris Boswell, to Governor Dave Friedenthal, to Wendy Brady-Hoft, Phil Noble, Art Reese, for mentoring me, for hiring me, for putting up with me. I'd like to thank the wonderful volunteer leadership that I so enjoyed working with. Bruce Richardson, the late great Tom Empey, Karen Stewart, Ernie Over, Dan Barks, whose irrepressible enthusiasm just buoyed us up as we were doing all of this work. I'd like to thank Rita Bazin, Sarah Sheen, and Dominic Bravo for their steadfast leadership and for their visionary ideas and proposals. And I'd like to thank, obviously, Governor Dave Friedenthal and First Lady Nancy Friedenthal, Governor Matt Mead and First Lady Carol Mead, Governor Gordon and First Lady Jenny Gordon, for the opportunity to serve and for being willing to make the arts a public policy priority in your administrations. Thank you so much for that. And last and certainly not least, to my family. Mom, you awakened and nurtured in me an understanding of the power of the arts to transform lives and the crucial role they play in building community. Dad, you taught me that administration can be a noble life's calling. My sister Maggie, my brother Pete, you inspired me every day with your dazzling talent. My kids, Alex, Sarah, and Hunter, I'm so proud of you and the way that you've managed to incorporate the arts into your lives. And my wife, Amy, for not only sticking with me through thick and thin for 35 years, but honey, for how you set an example for me every day in your fierce determination, your passion for life, your relentless drive, your capacity for love, and for your courage. All right, Gov Dave, you're going to be sorry you weren't here, because here we go. Churchill is purported to have said that the arts are what we're fighting for. Why? Here's my answer. Because we've known the arts to be foundational to the human experience ever since we discovered the first cave paintings. Because the arts have helped enable our long-term survival by giving us a powerful tool to bind together in distinct groups. But being the universal language, they also allow us to transcend the boundaries that separate us. Because the arts express the inexpressible and they permeate and pervade everything. Even commerce. Is marketing imaginable without the artist who, responding to our innate need for beauty, comes up with beautiful designs for products? What about the jingle writers and the actors and the choreographers and the production designers that sell those products? Every arts educator here tonight knows that sometimes the arts can reach people in a way that nothing else can, and it saves lives. The arts teach the value of self-discipline, self-sacrifice, hard work, the virtue of teamwork. They facilitate the ability of our brains to learn. The arts anchor us to our identity. They bolster us emotionally. They're an avenue to health and healing. And the arts help us understand our inner realities and our darkness and our light. And those realities are ultimately what determines how we interact with and shape the world. The arts open the doors to transcendent experiences that make us say, this is what life is all about. The arts can be the answer that everyone has available to them to the question of why we're here and why what we must endure in this world is worth it. They can be the standard by which all of our aspirations and experiences are measured. Ultimately, the arts are what ennoble and justify human existence, despite all of our weaknesses, mistakes, and capacities for failure. They are what's best in us. Thank you.
Well, if that's what facilitating's all about, I like facilitating. All right, so now I would like to invite Jeff O'Gara, filmmaker and author from Lander, to the stage to give his acceptance address. Jeff, come on up.
Hello, everybody. I donate the remainder of my 3 minutes to Millward, my friend. I'll get to some thank yous in a little bit, but first I think a little description of how I got here. I think I came to Wyoming kind of on a lark, getting away from Washington, D.C., getting to the mountains for a few years. It sounded like a lot of fun. And I found a place so loaded with untrodden landscapes and unvarnished people, and especially untold stories, that I kind of fell in love or something like that and stayed for more than 40 years. I wasn't really an obvious fit for Wyoming. God help me, I was born in California. But over time, I think I was accepted enough that I was trusted by people here to tell their stories with me, let me cover their politics as fairly as I could, and even let me do that, tell those stories when we saw the world quite differently. And I guess I want to hope that we all stay that way, because it's the best thing about Wyoming. We've got to be honest with each other. We've got to be tolerant. We've got to be independent. And we mustn't interfere with each other's lives. So let me get to the thank yous. Of course, thank you to Governor Gordon and First Lady Jenny and the Arts Council. There's a lot of other organizations that have made a big difference in my work and a lot of other work in the arts fields. And I'll get to some of them in what I hope I can keep a fairly short list of thank yous. And I know I'm going to leave people out and feel terrible about it. But there are some key people who helped me along the way. It starts with Tom Bell at High Country News, the late Tom Bell. High Country News. I mean, that was our first family here in Wyoming, and a couple of those family members, Kathy Bogan and Dan Whipple, are over here tonight. Some of those friends from the early days when we were all young and just getting started here. Next in my line was the gang at Wyoming PBS. And there's a bunch of them here tonight, too. Jennifer Amen, Joe Kale, there's a whole table full of them over there. I've got to cite a couple of them that were especially important to me. Ruby Calvert. She stuck my vain face in front of a camera, and it kind of worked, or at least she made me think it did. Kyle Nikoloff. So many of the things that I've done with Wyoming PBS, I've done with Kyle. I'm going to mention my own documentary crew, not here tonight, Rose Steller-Burke, Jordan Dresser, who was going to be here, and I think I gave him the wrong night, but anyway, Jordan's an important part of everything. And Sophie Barksdale, who's been there in so many ways, doing so much of the work, is off at a film festival up in Vancouver right now. And then there's all the wonderful people who gave me their stories, who shared them, who were brave enough to do that. Some of them are here tonight. I can't mention everybody. It'd be crazy. But I've got to mention, there's a crotchety old rancher somewhere around here, Albert Summers. He's one. Makes a big difference. Makes a big difference. And Yufna Soldier Wolf and Martin are over here. And Yufna, boy, she brought me to some of the most important stories I'll ever get to tell. Others too. I mean, I've told stories about Tom Ray over here. He's helped me with stuff. Renee Lake Magritte is here. Sarah Wiles taught me all kinds of things and appeared in our shows at Wyoming PBS. Anyway, I did what I said I wouldn't do. I went on and on with my thank yous. I can hardly stop. I'll do one more. The last, and maybe it's the first. A brave and beloved companion who's been with me through most of this adventure. There have been so many hikes down a trail, whether it's in the Wind River Mountains or inner city Baltimore. And we'd get somewhere and Berthenia would say, this is where we were going. We're here. This is the destination. And I'd be like, no, you know, how about over that ridge over there? Or how about around one more corner? Well, that's a little bit the way I feel about this honor today, for which I am so grateful. But rather than stand up here and say, look at what I've done, or look at what we've done, these artists, I want to say to all of you and to all the young artists out there, and probably especially to Berthenia, I want to say, what's over that next ridge? What's next? Let's go. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah Sheen. I'm the Deputy Director of State Parks and Cultural Resources, and sadly, we have reached the end of our journey tonight. I want to thank all of the award recipients this evening for everything that they do, everything they've done, and everything they will do, because I know that all of them will continue with their work. Huge round of applause for the inspiration they give us all. And I especially want to thank First Lady Jenny Gordon. When the governor said he wasn't going to be here, I was like, yeah, but Jenny is, right? So we're good. Thank you. And a special thanks to, just want to recognize Little America. They do this for us every year, and they do a fantastic job. And we have some of the same sponsors every year. Another thanks to them. We couldn't do it without them. Not a dime of state money goes into this. This is all sponsorship money. That's how much the people care about the arts in Wyoming. Just want to point that out one more time. And I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. It was lovely to see all of you. Please come back again and have a lovely evening. Thank you.